A man in Ohio checked his brokerage account on a Tuesday morning before work. 6 figures. For the first time in his life, he sat there in his car in the parking lot for 11 minutes before he went inside. Nothing about his day changed after that. He still clocked in at 8. He still ate the same turkey sandwich at lunch. He still drove the same 2014 Corolla home that night, the one with the crack in the windshield he'd been meaning to fix for 2 years. That's the part nobody tells you about the first $100,000. It doesn't buy you anything. Not a car, not a house, not even a really nice vacation, once you account for the fact that spending it defeats the entire purpose of having it. And yet, almost everyone who's built real wealth points back to this exact number as the moment something shifted. Charlie Munger used to say, "The first 100,000 is a bitch." He wasn't being cute. He meant it. Munger built one of the largest fortunes in American history alongside Warren Buffett, and even he described that early stretch as the hardest, most grinding phase of the whole climb. Slower than anything that came after, more painful than it should be, and almost entirely invisible to everyone watching from the outside. Here's why. Money, once it exists in large enough piles, starts working on its own. At $100,000 invested and earning something like 7 or 8% a year, you're looking at roughly $7,000 to $8,000 showing up annually without you doing a single additional thing. That's not retirement money. That's not quit your job money. But it's the first time the money itself becomes a coworker. It clocks in, even when you don't. At $10,000, that same math gets you $700 or $800 a year. Enough to notice, maybe, if you're paying close attention. Not enough to change how you think. Go back further. To the first $1,000 saved, and the return is almost a rounding error. $70, $80 a year. You'd make more picking up one extra shift. This is the part that breaks people. The first stretch of saving feels like almost nothing is happening. You put money in, and it just sits there. Quiet. Unremarkable. Most people quit right around here, not because they ran out of discipline, but because the math genuinely looked like it wasn't working. It was. It just hadn't compounded long enough to show itself yet. Think about a snowball at the top of a hill. For the first stretch, you're the one doing all the work, pushing it, packing more snow onto it by hand. It barely picks up speed. It barely picks up size. Anyone watching would assume you're wasting your time. But somewhere down that hill, the snowball starts picking up snow faster than you ever could by hand. The size of the ball itself starts doing the work. That's not a metaphor about motivation. That's literally how compound interest behaves, and $100,000 is roughly the point on the hill where people start to feel that shift happening under them. A financial planner in Austin, the kind who sat across the table from thousands of people building wealth from nothing, put it simply once. Below $100,000, she said, almost everything comes from what you put in. Above it, more and more starts coming from what the money does on its own. It's not that the finish line gets closer. It's that gravity starts helping you get there. So if the first 100,000 changes the math, what does it actually change in a person's life? Not much, at first. And that's exactly what throws people off. A woman in Denver hit 6 figures in her retirement and brokerage accounts combined at 29. She didn't buy a new car, didn't move apartments, didn't tell her coworkers. She kept splitting a 2-bedroom with a roommate she'd had since college, kept driving 40 minutes to visit her parents on weekends instead of flying, kept clipping digital coupons at the grocery store out of habit, more than necessity at this point. From the outside, her life looked identical to the year before. What changed was quieter than that. She stopped checking her bank balance with a knot in her stomach before paying rent. She started saying yes to a slightly better job offer instead of the safest one, because for the first time, a bad 6 months wouldn't wipe her out. She slept better. Not because she was rich. She wasn't. Not by any real measure. But because the floor under her had gotten a little more solid. That's the actual shift. Not lifestyle. Not luxury. Nervous system. There's a term for what builds around that number. And it isn't really about the dollar amount at all. It's about what stops controlling you. The fear of one bad month. The dread of a surprise repair bill. The quiet math running in the back of your head every time a friend suggests a trip you can't quite afford. Somewhere around 6 figures, invested and growing, that background noise gets turned down. Not off. Down. And this is exactly where people make the mistake that cost them the second 100,000 and the 400,000 after that. They feel the shift, and they mistake it for arrival. The floor got solid, so they assume the whole house is built. They upgrade the car. They upgrade the apartment. They tell themselves they've earned it, and in a sense, they have. But the moment that snowball starts rolling on its own is the exact moment it's most dangerous to reach out and grab a chunk of it off the side. The people who actually go on to build serious wealth tend to do the opposite of what feels natural here. They keep the sandwich. They keep the Corolla with a cracked windshield. Not out of some monk-like discipline, and not because they're incapable of enjoying money. Because they understand, somewhere past the emotional relief of hitting the number, that the boring part isn't over. It's just started working in their favor for the first time. Munger himself lived like that for decades after he stopped needing to. Buffett still lives in the same house he bought in 1958, not as a stunt, not for the cameras, because somewhere along the way, the goal quietly stopped being have more stuff and became something closer to never have to worry about this again. The man in the parking lot in Ohio, the one who sat there for 11 minutes before walking inside, he didn't buy anything that week either. He went back to his desk. He ate the same lunch. But that night, for the first time in years, he didn't open his banking app before bed to check if everything was still okay. It was. And somewhere underneath that quiet, ordinary Tuesday, the snowball had already started rolling on its own.